I'm originally from the tropics. Dominican Republic is my home. I'm really very international. I've lived in all parts of the world. There isn't a single country I have not been to except, no, I was not in French Guiana. At the time that my mother was pregnant, the doctors in the Dominican Republic were not very good. So they sent their families to Europe for the woman to give birth. And that's what happened to me. So my mother went to Prague. She gave birth to me there, and then started traveling all around, took me to meet my great-grandfather, her grandfather, who was already in his 90s, her mother, who was also up there in her years. And then she came back, and she got pregnant a second time, and this time my brother was born. And so both of us were born in a town called Brno, in what was then Czechoslovakia, what is today Czech Republic. When we came to this country, early 1941, in New Jersey, my mother had married a man. He came to Santo Domingo, and they were married there. And I went to school in New Jersey. I went to school in New York. I went to school in Florida. I went to school in Maryland. I wanted to become a doctor. I felt that I had the wherewithal to become a doctor because I felt that I always wanted to help somebody medically. And so before getting a doctor's degree, I became a doctor's assistant, what is today called a nurse practitioner. And back then we called it doctor's assistant. And I worked at that for numerous years. And then I went to college in St. Petersburg, Florida. There I met my husband, and we were married in 1949. I became pregnant the following year with my son Pedro. When I was pregnant with him, my husband had an accident and was killed. So I became a widow before being a mother, the first time around. I was alone for almost 14 years when I met Mr. Harry Down, and we were married in 1965, and we've been married for almost 52 years when he died last year in January. I traveled because I enjoyed traveling, first and foremost. And secondly, for business. I traveled for business. I represented a medical firm from Germany, and I traveled all over Latin America for them. I became a writer after I had a stroke. Unfortunately, living in Washington, first of all, Washington, D.C. is a toxic city. And living with toxicity, the stress becomes sometimes unbelievable. My life became very stressful. And in November of 2003, I had my first stroke. I was in the hospital, and then I came home. I did not go to rehab. My husband didn't believe in it. I worked with myself. I brought myself out of it, out of the depression. I know what depression is. I know how to treat people with depression. I can help them. The third age is 65, The Breach. It was written under my pseudonym, which is Sophia. And that was the second book I wrote. The first book that I wrote was about real estate, because I had gone very successfully into all types of real estate, all over the United States and all over Latin America as well. Then my second stroke was in 2012, and I developed residues from the stroke. I have very bad tremors, but other than that, I'm as healthy as a horse. The third book is here. It is called Life in Your Fourth Age, 80 and Beyond. I am 90. I enjoy life. I believe that life needs to be lived to the fullest. I do not believe in just sitting there and doing nothing and waiting for whoever it comes to get you and take you to wherever it is you need to go. People say to me, I think I've lived long enough and I want to die. And I wonder to myself, what's wrong with their life? Why do they want to die? Why do they want to go away? The world is a wonderful place, but you have to make it. You have to find that wonder. And you have to find that realization that what you can bring to the world, to the people of the world, is something that will make them happier. And that's what I want to do. PACE stands for the words Prevention of Cerebral Attacks Through Education. It's in Spanish. Prevención de ataques cerebrales a través de la educación. The object of it is to teach people, to instruct people, to provide lectures, to provide information. What are the risk factors for stroke and other kinds of cardiovascular, cerebrovascular diseases or ailments? There are so many people that desperately need what I am going to teach because they're either too heavy, they have diabetes, they have high cholesterol, they have high blood pressure, they don't eat right, they don't exercise. And we need to change this. We want to make this community a healthy community. If I can do it at 90, I am today healthier at 90 than I was when I was 75. If I can do it, others can do it as well.
What's your secret?
Pardon?
What's your secret?
You have to come to my lectures. Through this, you can learn to live well, you can learn to enjoy life, and to be happy and satisfied. As you read the different chapters, you realize how they interact with one another. The book is about life. And it's about life in your fourth age. In Latin America, if you're 65, they say that's the third age. So if you're 65, you're in the third age. And I decided that being 80 and over, well, that's the fourth age. Now, when I'm 100, which I will be, I'm going to write another book. And it's going to be the fifth age. And the name of that one is going to be Life in Your Fifth Age, Becoming a Centenarian. This kind of education is not available anywhere. Whether you go to a psychiatrist, or whether you go to an internist, or whether you go to a cardiologist, or whether you go to a podiatrist, or you go to a dentist, they only talk about that area of their own personal expertise, but they don't cover the globe. I cover the globe. I took a number of trade missions into Latin America. I worked with USAID in Jordan, in Guatemala, in Bolivia. Now that I'm a writer, I write about those experiences. This teaches you to be with people around you. Why? So that you can be more content with your life. I see it every day of the week. I see it in the supermarket. I see it in this store. They don't communicate. They don't know how. They don't live. They exist.
Are there any message or messages you would like to share to the young generation?
Travel.
Of everything you learn.
Travel.
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 Because?
By traveling, you learn how other people live. By traveling, you learn about other cultures, other customs. You learn what life is like on the other side of the fence. and you will probably become a better person for it. And therefore enjoy life better. Who knows, you might even find a mate. I have friends all over the world. I can go anywhere in the world and not be alone.
So how's traveling changed your life personally?
Maybe it has expanded my horizons, but then I've been traveling since I was born. So I don't know any different. My plan is to teach, to educate. The mind tells you what is wrong if you listen to it. Unfortunately, most people don't know how to listen to it. Your mind will tell you by signaling with symptoms. It could be something emotional. It could be something physical. It could be something mental. It could be a form of eating or certain types of foods. It could be many different things. In my case, when I had the first stroke, what caused it? I'm not diabetic. I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have high cholesterol. I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't have anything. So why should I have a stroke? The one thing that I really came on, they didn't know, they did not mention, and that was stress. I was stressed out. I know that today because I've studied it. Now, when I said earlier that I had a stroke and I suffered depression for almost a year, that meant that I had to heal. My body had to heal. My brain had to heal. And it healed all by itself. I had no medication. I had no medical treatments. I did it all by myself. I almost killed myself a couple of times because I was definitely suicidal. I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to get dressed. I didn't want to put lipstick on. I didn't want to talk to anybody. But I slept a lot. And I learned that my brain needed to heal. And it healed. The second time around, it was a different type of a stroke, a completely different type of a stroke. Because there was very little depression. It left a residue. Yes, I have the tremors. But it did not affect me as badly as the first one. It is also in a more dangerous place than the first one, because the first one is just right up here, and I have a scar, like I have a scar from my knee. But from the second one, there is no scar, because it was so deep, deep inside the brain. And my doctor said, you have to be careful, because you don't want to get a third one. I said, I have no intentions of getting a third one. Stress is no longer a part of me. I'm not going to worry about anything. I'm not going to do anything that could hurt me in any way, shape, or form.